you're starting out in sales, cold calling is one of the most brutal aspects of the job. You're calling people that don't want to talk to you. You're getting hanged up left and right, and sometimes you don't even know what to say. I've been there before because I used to work at Oracle doing a bunch of cold calls every single day. When I did a bad cold call, somebody yelled at me, I would feel down. I wouldn't even want to call anybody. So that's you, or maybe you're someone that's just starting out in sales. I'm gonna show you my best tips on how to cold call so that instead of being afraid to talk to the other person on the other side, they're gonna love to talk to you and hear what you have to sell. Now, if you are wanting to master your cold calls, what I've found to be most effective is that you want to make sure you're calling the right people. So typically if you're working at a startup or a new company, or even at a legacy company at Oracle or Salesforce or something like that, not always will they give you a proper list. Sometimes they give you a list of people that aren't really interested in your product and service, maybe don't have the money, whatever, it doesn't fit your ideal customer profile. So the first thing you have to make sure 100% is that the people that you are going to reach out to are actually have a high chance of buying your product and service. This is where most people get it wrong. It's not always just a numbers game. You have to first make sure you're pointing your energy in the right direction before you start that numbers game. And unfortunately, a lot of people are calling the wrong list and they just end up with 0 results. And it doesn't matter if they do 1,000 calls or 10,000 calls, they're just calling on the wrong list. So that's the first tip I have for you. Make sure you're calling the right ideal customer. Now, the second tip I have for you is that you want to master your tonality in the first 5 seconds of a call. So what do I mean by this? Well, people are going to judge you whether or not they like you, whether or not they want to continue the conversation based on your tonality, meaning how you sound in the first 5 seconds of a call. So if you're very nervous and you're saying something like, hi John, this is my first cold call, and that cold call is not going to go anywhere. But if you say, hey John, how's it going? This is Patrick from Google. How are you doing today? And they're going to be like, oh, well, I'm doing okay. What's up? Why are you calling? Of course, they don't know why you're calling. They're kind of shocked that it's a cold call, but at the same time, they're going to ask a question of like, what's up? What do you want? And then you continue the conversation from there. So when I was at Oracle, I would actually practice my first 5 seconds over and over and over. I would record myself on my iPhone so I know exactly how I sound, because those 5 seconds are going to be the critical factor of making a difference or not. You see some people who are a natural at sales. It's because they have the social skills to actually talk to people, right? People who have to learn it from the ground up, maybe they're not as social to begin with. You have to practice. Even if you're not a natural, you can become better because you don't have to be born a salesperson. These are skills that are developed. They're really just communications and people skills. So now that you know the tonality is probably the most important, right? The next step is understanding what kind of lines you should be saying. What is your first line? The first thing I have to say is this: it's not about the line, it's about your tonality, right? It's even very similar to pickup. It actually doesn't really matter what you say. You don't need this crazy funny joke. You can literally say, hey, how's it going? I'm Patrick. What's your name, right? Same exact thing on a cold call. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Now, once you master your tonality, you're gonna go into what you say, because you got to say something, right? You might as well make it as good as possible plus your tonality. Typically what I do is I like to do it like this. Hey John, this is Patrick from ABC Marketing. How you doing today? Oh yeah, well, I'm doing pretty good. What's up? Well, hey, listen, I'm a little lost. Do you mind if I take a second to tell you why I'm calling? Sure, I guess. So that's typically my go-to line. If you see any of my sales videos, that's the one I love the most because it works. I've tried it so many times, and let me explain why. The first objection people have to this line is like,
why would you call someone looking lost? Why do you need to put yourself in a weaker position?
The reality is, it's human nature. You have to understand that when somebody needs help, naturally, a good human being would want to help that person, even if it's a stranger. So if somebody falls on the street, on the floor, they get hurt, everyone around them is going to gather, try to pick them up, make sure that person is okay. So we're using the same psychology where if you call somebody, they don't know why you're calling, but you're friendly. You say, hey John, how's it going? And they're just like, yeah, I'm doing good. What's up? Hey, I'm a little lost. Do you mind if I take a second to tell you why I'm calling? If it's only a second, then they're going to say yes, right? Why would they say no? So once you get that yes, you're getting these micro commitments that allow you to have a conversation with the person, right? If you go right in and just start pitching, nobody's going to want to listen to you. But if you start it off like that, friendly, ask them for a moment of their time, be respectful, then they're going to want to take the call. It doesn't work 100% of the time, but it works more often than not, and they'll at least listen to the next thing you have to say. And what that next thing actually is explaining the purpose of the call. So the mistake that most beginner salespeople have is that they don't explain why they're calling. They're just trying to sell something, and it just makes them look greedy and annoying. What you want to do instead is you want to explain to them what's going to happen on the call. So throughout the entire call, they're not thinking, thinking, oh my God, when is this person gonna hang up, right? That's the opposite of what you want. You actually just want to let them know what's up. So I would be like, I'm part of the marketing team over at ABC Marketing, and I visited your pet shop the other day, and I saw that you were getting a lot of customers, but I didn't really see you were using Instagram. And right now, for pet shops especially, Instagram is one of the best ways to get more foot traffic into your store. And I want to see, especially when it comes to organic content and pushing that with advertising. And I just want to take 5 minutes real quick to talk to you about how I might be able to help you increase sales by doing what you're already doing, but online, and getting more people to come to your store to buy more products. Does that sound fair to you? And so in this example, if you're, John or whoever at the pet store, you're like, oh yeah, he visited my store. He thinks he can generate more money for me with Instagram. I don't know Instagram, but maybe this guy knows something, right? So that's essentially, you want to get to that point. At least they get to the point where they know you're offering some kind of value, which is generating more revenue. They know that it's only going to take a few minutes because you've done your homework, you know who they are, you know exactly how you're going to help them, and now you're going to have a conversation on how you will help them. So that cold call essentially turned very warm very quickly within the first like 30 seconds, 1 minute, because you explained the entire situation. They agreed to a meeting, so it's basically like a meeting, and everything's all good. So you have that conversation. Once you got them warmed up and you say like, hey, is that fair? Does that sound okay with you? What you want to do is you just ask another question, right? So you would say something like, hey, I was curious, like you guys are doing really well, but I'm just surprised you guys haven't really been using Instagram or Facebook. What was the reason for that? It's not a yes or no question. It's a very open-ended question. What typically happens if you build rapport, if you have the right tonality and they like you as a human being, they're going to say,
Oh yeah, I really tried that Instagram thing, but it just didn't work. I was taking pictures, nobody was liking them, so I thought it was a waste of time, and I just went back to doing what I already knew.
Usually that's what's going to happen for this kind of scenario, right? And then you would just go into ask more questions into, okay, well, when you did do it, like, what did you try? How come it didn't work? How long did you try it? Did you ever try to hire anybody? And these are the questions that you ask to discover what their real problem is. That cold call, all you're doing is asking questions, trying to understand their pain. You take all their pain and then you package it into a solution, which is your product or service, right? In this case, it would be a marketing service. So once you ask all these questions, you get all the pain, and then you basically say, hey, I might be able to help you out. Do you mind if I tell you a little bit more about what I do? And they will say, sure. And then you will explain exactly how you solve their pains, how that you worked with other clients who were in very similar situations, like, hey, the other pet store across town, I helped them generate more foot traffic, whatever the case is, right? And you would give examples, concrete proof of the work that you've done so that you look more legit, you don't look very risky. And then at the end of the call, once you explain how you solve the problem, your case studies, you would say, hey, from here, is this something you would be interested in? And then you actually start the conversation of what it would look like if you two work together, right? But at that point, the cold call is already so warm that even if you don't have the perfect scripts and everything like that, you're pretty much there because you're essentially solving their problem, right? So to wrap things up, the most important thing is really your tonality and how you speak with the person and getting the person to like you. Because at the end of the day, people like to do business with their friends. People like to work with people they like. As long as you get the person to like you, you respect their time, you get them to do these micro commitments. Once you get like 20 minutes in, you're pretty much already there. Then you just have to close it out, which you could watch my other sales videos on how to close a deal. And if you want to take your sales game to the next level, make sure to check out my masterclass Sales Legacy at saleslegacy.com. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you in the next video.